Good morning, William to Yaxley, and a very warm welcome to you. It's lovely to be with you again in another week. I think you're week 3 now of your school year. And I'm in a different place today. I haven't got my collar on and I'm sitting in a different place. I'm outside. I'm not where I normally am in my study when I take these films, but I thought I'd show you somewhere different because I'm not in Yaxley at the moment. I'm away from home for a couple of days for a special occasion. So I'm going to get up and I'm going to show you over here and see if you can see a little bit of what I can see when I sit outside. And this might be a place that you've been to before. I'm going to turn my laptop round. I get to be by the sea for a couple of days. I am in Cornwall. Now, some of you have hopefully been down here at some point. You may have been down here during the school holidays or for something else. But my mum lives in Cornwall, and so I get to come down here reasonably often. It's quite a long way from Yaxley to come, but I get to come down and see her. And I'm here just for a couple of days to pick her up because we're coming back up to Yaxley later in the week. And at the weekend, my sister's going to be ordained. So we've got a really special occasion. Now, you may have no idea what being ordained means, and it's going to be a bit like me. She's been training to be a vicar, and on Saturday at St Albans Abbey, which is a big cathedral in St Albans, she's going to be ordained, which is when she'll get the collar that I normally wear, and she'll be wearing that, and she'll have the title of Reverend, like you call me, Reverend Sarah. So we're really looking forward to going to that, but I'm here just for a couple of days to come down and pick Mum up, and then we're looking forward to going to be with my sister at the weekend. So I thought I'd do a different assembly for you today. I thought I'd do an assembly from outside down here in Cornwall, and it's quite quiet at the moment, but you'll probably hear traffic going by as well, and there are walkers going backwards and forwards as well, because we're in such a lovely place and we get to be by the sea. So there are lots of people around still, even though you're back at school. There are lots of people who are taking their holidays now. Now, we've been talking over the last couple of weeks about who is Jesus, who is this really special person that is central to our Christian faith. And the first week we just thought generally a bit about who am I as a vicar, what's my role in the church, what do I do when I talk about Jesus, and what kind of places do I work in. Then last week we thought a bit more about Jesus as a baby, as a young child, and then also we thought right the way up to when he was 30, knowing that we don't actually know very much about his early life. So we don't know a huge amount about those years, but we came in at age 30, and we know that Jesus' ministry started at the age of 30, and we know that his ministry lasted 3 years. Now, if I ask you what kind of things happened during Jesus' ministry, you would give me lots of different examples. You would tell me some of the things that you know about how Jesus healed people, how Jesus came alongside those that were lonely and very sad, how he helped those that were poorly, how he worked with people who were often cast out. They were just on the outside of society very often, and Jesus came alongside them and looked after them. So Jesus did many amazing things during his life on earth. And we're going to think about one of those really special stories right now. And I think I told this story to you the last time I was in school, which was February, March time, just before we went into lockdown. But I thought it'd be great to talk about it again today, particularly as I'm here by the sea and thinking about water, because this story starts on the water. Now, I don't know what you do if you want a bit of quiet time. You might maybe go into your bedroom, or perhaps you've got a special place you go. Perhaps you go into your garden. There are lots of different things that we can do. We want a bit of time to ourselves. But Jesus was such an amazing person that people were following him everywhere. Everywhere he went, crowds and crowds of people followed him because they wanted to hear more of what he was saying. They wanted to see more of the amazing things that he was doing. And so everywhere he went, he had lots of people with him. But Jesus also liked to spend time with God his Father in prayer, like we pray at the end of our assemblies. He wanted to spend time praying and talking and listening to God. And so there was one day when the disciples and Jesus were really tired. They'd done a lot of work, and they got into a boat. Now, I've shown you some of the water that I've got here. It wasn't quite like that. It was a big, big lake that they were in. They got into a boat and they rowed across. I'm going to take you back for another walk. And we're going to look out the sea again, because the disciples rowed across the lake with Jesus in the boat. imagine that you could walk round this coastline and you could meet the boat that went from one side to another. And that's what the crowds did, because they wanted to be with Jesus. So they walked from one side to another, and Jesus had a little bit of quiet time in the boat, not very much, but he had a little bit of quiet time. And they got to the other side to find all these crowds. So Jesus got out the boat again and started teaching people about God, about who he was, and telling them amazing things. And the crowd sat there all afternoon. Then it started to get a little bit late. I think it's probably about 6 o'clock at the moment, and you might be thinking, oh, my stomach's starting to rumble a little bit. And those people who were all out on the shoreline, it was getting tea time and there was nowhere for them to eat. They didn't have restaurants, didn't have supermarkets. And Jesus said to his disciples, his friends who were with him, we need to find somewhere, we need to find some food for them. Well, I don't know what you'd do if you were in the middle of nowhere. You had no restaurants, you had no money, you had no supermarkets. How would you feed lots and lots of people? If I said to you today, you've got to go and feed your school, what would you do? I think I'd panic a little bit if I was told I had to feed Will and Yaxley school. So the disciples chatted amongst themselves and they had a little conversation thinking about, well, how do we feed all these people? We've got no food with us. It would take so much money to feed all of those people, and we haven't got that amount of money. And they went back to Jesus and they said, we don't think we can do it. So Jesus said to them, well, what do you have? And one of Jesus' friends had found a little boy, and the little boy had his packed lunch. Now, if I asked you to open up your lunchbox if you've got a packed lunch today, I wonder what would be in it. Perhaps some sandwiches, maybe some fruit. Well, this little boy had for lunch 5 loaves, little loaves, not thinking about our big bread that we have in loaves today, and 2 fish. Now, you've got to think that where this story was set, it was probably quite warm. I think the bread might have been a bit moist and the fish might have been a bit stinky, quite frankly. But the boy was really happy to offer what he had, these 5 loaves and 2 fish. Now, if someone gave that to me and said, I've got to feed your class today with that, I'm still not sure I've managed to do it. But we've got to remember we're talking about Jesus. Jesus did amazing, miraculous things. And this is one of Jesus' miracles. If I asked you what a miracle was, I wonder what you'd tell me. There might be things that you've heard of people saying, that was really miraculous when something happens. You might have seen something or read maybe one of these stories and heard about a miracle. And it's something that is unexpected. It's something that's amazing. And this story is totally amazing, and I love this story. So we've got to remember this boy had his 5 loaves and 2 fish. And we have to remember as well that Jesus uses everything that we have. Now, all I have today is a little bit of bread from a loaf. I haven't got any fish, but I've got a little bit of bread. So if I took my little bit of bread and I broke it, it might just feed my mum and I today. I don't think I could even feed the whole of your class today with it. But Jesus told the disciples to go and make all the crowd sit down. Now, there were 5,000 people there. I don't know if you can even imagine what 5,000 people look like. It's an awful lot of people. Maybe you know the Albert Hall, the Royal Albert Hall in London. Perhaps you've seen pictures of it. It does really big concerts. The Royal Albert Hall can seat 5,000 people in it. But let's think, your school has got about 220 people in it, plus all your staff. So we times that by 5, we get about 1,000. Then we need to times that by another 5, and then we get 5,000. That's an awful lot of timesing to get that number. So it's your school many, many, many times over, all these people, and they're sitting out like I can see today, maybe on a shoreline, and they've listened to Jesus talking and they're hungry. So Jesus sent his disciples and said, go and tell them to sit down. So the disciples do that. They say, just go, sit down in your groups. And Jesus takes the food he has. It wouldn't have been a loaf like this, but he took the loaves and the fish. And I wonder what you think he might have done. Well, he gave thanks for them. He thanked God for what he had. He wanted to stay talking to God his Father all the time. And so he thanked God for what he had. He asked God to bless it and to use it to feed the people that were there. So he did this. He maybe said, we won't talk about it saying grace these days. And he did this. And then he said to the disciples, okay, start taking the food out. So they took the food out, and I wonder how far you think it got. Do you think it maybe got to the first group and ran out? Maybe to the second group and ran out? No. These 5 loaves and 2 fish, fed everybody, fed all the 5,000 people. And not only that, but afterwards the disciples went and gathered 12 baskets back of leftover food. So if you think we just had a lunchbox to start with, then we fed all these people, and we've got even more left at the end. How amazing is this story? That was a true miracle in feeding all these people. And I love this story because it makes us think about, what do we have? And maybe you've got lots of things when you go home. Maybe you've not got very much. But we don't just have to think about the material things we've got, the toys or the pencil cases. We can think about what we've got in our heart, the love that we've got to give to other people, the care and the compassion that we can show to others. And this little boy just giving what he had at that time meant that a whole army of people could be fed. All those people were fed. That is such an amazing story. So we're going to take a little bit of time to pray, and we normally pray either with our hands together or our eyes closed. But I'm going to take my computer back again to the shore, to the sea, and we can maybe look at some sea. And you might be able to hear it. I can hear it from here, but I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it on the film. And just think for a moment about what you have. Maybe today there's someone struggling at school. You can come alongside them and encourage them. Perhaps someone's having a really difficult day. You can just smile at them and give them a smile. We've all got things that we can share with each other in different ways. They don't have to be big things. This little lunchbox is quite small, but Jesus did amazing things with it. And so you've got things that you can share. You've got things of you, like a smile that you can give to somebody else and share it with them. And so we're going to think about this story. We're going to think about how amazing is Jesus to have done these things, and think about, gosh, what other stories are we going to hear about? Because there's so much to tell you about Jesus. So I'm going to take you back again so you can see the sea. And you might just want to spend a few moments just looking at the sea, or maybe you can hear the birds that are making a right noise at the moment. It's getting really dark here. I think it might rain very soon, actually. It is an amazing view, and I'm really fortunate that I get to come here quite often, and I get to see this, and hopefully you might have seen some sea this year at some point. You're nearly at the end of your school week, so I hope you've had a good week. I hope that whatever you go and do this weekend, you have a lovely weekend as well. I think it's supposed to get a little bit colder, unfortunately, but never mind, we are in autumn now. And I will see you next week, and we're going to think about more stories about Jesus. And it might be you've got some questions for me. That's great. If you've got questions, then write them down and give them to your teacher or to Mrs. Corley, and I will try and answer them the best that I can. But perhaps you're thinking, what can I give today? Just think about these few slices of bread. Think about this boy. Think about all the amazing things that you've got that you can give to others. So have a great rest of this week. Have a wonderful weekend. I look forward to joining you next week. Take care. God bless. Stay safe. Bye.